Thank you for listening to the Following Films podcast. I'm Chris Maynard, your host. Today we have a special episode featuring Greg Glienna, the creator of Meet the Parents. In this episode, Greg talks about his latest project, The Road Dog, a film that provides an honest depiction of the challenges that stand-up comedians face. With a cast of professional comedians, the movie follows the life of an alcoholic stand-up as he reconnects with his estranged son. Doug Stanhope delivers an outstanding performance in the lead role, showcasing his talent and versatility as an actor. But before we dive into our conversation with Greg, I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Bookman's. Bookman's is an independent bookstore that believes in the magic of storytelling and the cinematic arts. So if you're looking to expand your collection of films, music, or books, visit your nearest Bookman's and discover something truly wonderful. If you haven't already, please follow the Following Films podcast on Spotify to show your support. This will help us continue to bring you in-depth conversations with the talented individuals who shape the world of cinema. The Road Dog is currently available on VOD. Hope you enjoy the show. Thanks.
Yeah, that's better. Okay.
There you go. Perfect. Well, thank you again for taking the time to do this, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
So the first thing that I wanted to talk about was the idea of doing a film about stand-up comedy and your experience with stand-up comedy, because this feels utterly real and lived in. I don't know anything about stand-up comedy, but this feels like what that world would be. It feels honest from the outside.
Yeah, we really tried to, my co-writer, Tony Boswell, and I really tried to present it as it was, as we remember it. You know, there's not a lot of great stand-up comedy movies. I always tell this story. I remember when Punchline came out, I was working with Jeff Garlin.
Yeah.
And he saw it, and I said, how is it? And he said, the comedians have lockers.
Exactly.
And that was all he had to say. Was just saying it was, not real. Doug Stanhope told me that he initially was going to turn it down. He didn't want to come to Chicago in the winter and film this, but he said he read it and he thought we really captured, like not too many movies have done, really captured that world.
It seems like such a no-brainer too, doing a film about stand-up, because so many actors, so many comedians transition into the world of acting, and they at least try on that hat for a little while. And I'm just shocked there hasn't been more of it. Seems like it would be something you get once a year.
Maybe it's too depressing. The reality,
Fair enough. And then so I live in Arizona. I live in Tucson, and Doug is a local legend out here. We're not that far away from Bisbee, so he's kind of the hometown hero. I think everybody here would have that vote of confidence in him. What led you to cast him in this? I mean, obviously his experience, but I mean, he's the emotional core of this. If that casting doesn't work, your film doesn't work, man.
It's because he did this episode of Louis. Louis C.K.'s show, and he was so great in that. That always kind of stuck in our heads when we were writing it. Like, he's just the perfect actor for that role. I can't even imagine anybody who could do it as well as him,
Well, I mean, and this isn't just him pulling off the stage stuff, because most of this film, I mean, that there's pieces of that, of course, but really most of this is not comedy in that sense, or the comedy's not coming from bits. It's, coming from moments that are, it's a very human story.
I did not want to make a stand-up comedy movie. I didn't, That's why some people have asked me, why didn't I include more stand-up? I wanted to be for stand-up as Rocky was about boxing, you know what I mean? Just like a background, but it's still a human story. So,
I mean, you could really inject almost any profession into this story and it would still work. If you had somebody that was a traveling salesman or something along those lines, something that where you're isolated and out on the road and going from town to town. And I think the sort of core thing about this, while it is very authentic and real too, and it's unique to stand up, there is something that is universal about this. And I think the themes that you're dealing with here are not really directly tied to stand up.
Yeah, I hope so. That was the intention.
Well, and that's the father and son stuff here. Obviously you have the two generations of that, which is really the core of the story. Cause Doug has to pull off some pretty heavy lifting. You look at the scene in the hospital or any of the interactions with his son. And it's just, I was just floored to get this emotional watching some of his stuff. And did you have to work with him on those particular moments, or did he come with ideas on how to handle those heavier scenes?
I wish I could take credit for his great performance, but we spoke when he accepted the role. We talked on the phone for a while just about the character and then we had a Zoom rehearsal, and he was brilliant. And so I didn't have to say anything more about it. I think there was one thing that he needed help with, one line. But I mean, he just was great. He does his homework, and he's a natural. He just doesn't overact. He's just real.
Do you find that comedians have a natural ability from what they've been doing to work in film? Because it's a much different skill set, because you have to do some more quiet internal stuff. You're not doing the "hey, look at me" thing.
Yeah, it's mixed. I directed Judy Tenuta in a movie, and she was a very broad, stand-up, and she had a tough time calming down for film.
I could see that. She was a bigger than life character for sure.
Yeah, but some actors some comedians are great actors, and some aren't, I guess.
But you cast quite a few here in this film, though, where you have several comedians that are coming into the movie. So it's not just Doug. So you're really having faith in these other comedians as well.
Well, really, all of them I've worked with before.
Oh, okay.
I mean, John DeCoste was in the original Meet the Parents. Vince Moranto was, and so those are guys I've worked with. So I thought they were okay.
Well, then, like a guy like Greg Fitzsimmons, that was had you worked with him before, or was that something new?
No, that was just luck that we got him, because that role it was supposed to be Michael Biehn.
Oh,
from Terminator.
That's right. Yeah, he does he live out here too, or something? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So we had a lot of phone conversations with him, and he couldn't wait to do this part. And then all of a sudden, he just wasn't doing it. I think we made an official offer, and he saw how much the SAG low budget minimum. So we had like a week to go when we cast Bobcat Goldthwait was going to do it.
Love him.
Then 2 days before, he got COVID.
Oh,
so we were just scrambling, and then somebody suggested Greg Fitzsimmons, and he turned out to be really, really good.
He's great in it. Yeah,
it's just luck, just pure luck.
Because he has one of those roles where it could be a one note kind of caricature, and he actually somehow pulls off this warmth, and you actually like the guy because you see the stage persona that he's doing, and it's something that's not really anything that you would want to hang out with, but he's great.
That's my favorite character in the script is Mikey. and I thought he did it great. He just the way he is just lends itself to that role. I mean, he's not a hack comic, but
no, he's a great comic, but he
was. We just got lucky with that because he literally had about 2 days before we filmed. He got the role and he flew out and just did it. He was really good.
Is he one of those guys you think you'll work with again in the future, or is that?
I would love to work with him again. Yeah, and he was so funny off stage too. We had a really good time filming that.
Nice.
His scenes.
So you're making a low budget film about comedy, and you're the one that's doing this. You decide to set it in Chicago in the winter. Is that a act of, self-flagellation or?
Yeah, I said the sequel is going to be Jimmy, David, the son, is going to track Jimmy down in the Bahamas. But for some reason, and Tony agreed with me, all my memories, when I think back of my stand-up years, it was always in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember as much driving in the summer, beautiful sunny days. I just picture like bare trees and white roads and, so I think it lends itself to the story more than beautiful sunny days would have been.
So when you were doing stand-up, you were a road comic or?
Yeah, well, I did 1 or 2 weeks on the road every month. But it was mainly, I was based out of Chicago, so I worked Michigan, Indiana, Ohio.
The places you could get to in a day or two driving, that kind of.
Exactly.
Okay. And then is there something that there's oftentimes that people romanticize the darkest days of their lives, the hardest points where they go back and they say, there's that thing, there was something pure, honest, and just about that time in our lives. Remember when we were broke in that apartment kind of thing. Is that something that you have those feelings for that time, or is that just gladly in the rearview mirror now?
Gladly in the rearview mirror. It's funny. I never set out to be a stand-up.
Okay.
I was going to film school in Chicago, and I had a friend who was like, "Oh, there's this open mic. I'd like to do comedy." So I went with him and just watched him. And then I ended up going back there, and I just got hired, and I really caught this comedy boom that it's talked about in the movie. But there was a period in the mid '80s that just clubs were opening up everywhere, and all of a sudden I was just getting offers for work, and I was working full time. So I kind of fell into it, and I never really liked doing it. I always thought of myself as an actor who was playing a stand-up comedian.
Today's episode of the Following Films podcast is brought to you by Bookman's. So the last time I went into Bookman's, I went straight over to the movie section, as I often do, and I was so excited because one of my favorite things that happens when I go in there, I'm looking for a movie and I don't know exactly what I want to see, something I've been meaning to see, and there's a blind spot. And when I saw East of Eden, I was super excited because it's a movie I've been wanting to see for years, but for whatever reason, I've just never gotten around to it. So the film adaptation of John Steinbeck's East of Eden, it's a powerful cinematic achievement. I know I'm not the first person to say this, but it absolutely does justice to the novel's what can only be described as profound themes and the complex characters. It's directed by Kazan and features outstanding performances from the whole cast, but mainly here by James Dean as Cal Trask. The film captures the essence of the book while adding its own visual and emotional dimension. The cinematography, which looks absolutely incredible in 4K, captures the rugged beauty of the California landscape. So it sets the stage for this intense family drama that unfolds throughout the film. And the screenplay manages to condense this complex novel that is East of Eden without feeling truncated. It makes this really intricate plot, takes that and then just condenses it down and really only gets the essential elements of it. And all the themes are still intact with love, jealousy, and the struggle between good and evil. That's all there. And it doesn't feel like a lesser than. It feels like a complement to. If you've read East of Eden and haven't seen the film, definitely catch up on it. Highly recommend it. If you've only seen the film and haven't read the book, definitely check out the book as well. It's worth your time. But in the movie, James Dean's portrayal of the troubled Cal, it's nothing short of iconic. It showcases his raw talent and charisma. The supporting cast is also incredible, especially Julie Harris, I think, does an equally compelling job here with just an outstanding performance. And there's a depth and authenticity to these characters that wasn't very common for this time. So it's something pretty remarkable here. East of Eden, it's absolutely a classic that continues to resonate to this day, still holds up. I think that's mainly because of its exploration of human nature and the complexity of family dynamics. It's a timeless masterpiece that deserves a place in the annals of cinematic history. I think it's there. It just took me a long time to catch up with it. This is a must-watch for anyone who appreciates powerful storytelling and exceptional performances. So remember, next time you go to Bookman's, they have your cool covered. Hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
But I like the lifestyle. I like the traveling and the motels and having your days free. And so I have a lot of good memories with that. But I never really liked doing stand-up. I kind of just fell into it.
I think most of us feel that way about our careers to some degree, where we're just actors playing a role. I think very few people that they end up in a career where it's like, okay, this is who I am in this role right now. I'm embodied here.
But some comedians are just funny. I'm a writer.
Yeah.
Like I could write funny material, so I would do that, but I'm not naturally like a life of the party kind of. Some comics are, you know.
And I'm sorry to kind of drill down on this at all, but do you remember any of the first jokes you wrote still? Is there anything that...
Well, my signature bit when I started was I would do a 5 minute. It was every episode of the TV show Kung Fu.
The David Carradine thing?
Yeah, I would. That was my big thing. I would do the whole like in every episode this happened and this happened. But that for a long time that was my signature bit. But then I realized that audiences didn't remember the show. Sometime in the
they aged out.
Yeah, 80s, 90s, the young audiences didn't know that show at all. I had to drop it.
Well, it's one of those things, I guess, if you hang on to it long enough, things tend to come back around. So it could be relevant again at some point if people pick up Kung Fu again. I have no idea.
I guess if I play a nursing home, I could that would go over.
So is that something that you had experience with? Because you have a couple of you have a hell gig in here for sure.
I've done so many hell gigs.
Did like a funeral? I mean, that's pretty rough in the film. So,
well, it's not a funeral; it's a church service. Yeah. But they're taking a moment of silence for this tragedy that happened. Yes. And now a comedian. That's something I never experienced that, but my writing partner Tony swears to me that this is a thing in the South. They'll get comedians to do little, 15 minutes in a church. So it does happen.
I couldn't even imagine. Were you a clean comic, or was that something that
I was mainly clean. I had a few words. I remember I opened up for Bobby Vinton, this singer from the 60s, and he had a very elderly audience. And I remember just like going through my, every bit I've ever tried, like what's clean, what's family, can't do this bit, can't do this bit.
So then,
but yeah, I was mainly clean. Yeah.
So then how did you transition? I guess the comedy boom dies down. And is that when you kind of settle into writing at that point, or how did you make that move?
Well, I always, I was going to film school. I always wanted to make films. And while I was doing stand-up, I would do these little short films with my own money, and there was a show on in Chicago called Image Union, and they would show short films. So I got a couple of my films on this Image Union, and I had done a 5-minute short film about a guy who goes to meet his girlfriend's parents and he breaks their prize vase. It was called the Vase. And I became friendly with Emo Phillips, the comedian. I opened up for him a bunch of times, and turns out he had seen this short on Image Union. And I told him I had an idea for turning it into a feature film. I was kind of inspired by the Peter Sellers movie, The Party.
Sure,
because that whole movie, he's just going to a party, and that's the entire plot.
Yep.
So I thought, why couldn't I do a film? I was just going to meet the parents, and that's the whole movie, is spending this weekend with the parents. So I told him that, and he said that sounded like a funny idea, and if I wrote it, if he liked it, he would consider putting money into it. So I wrote that script with a girl named Mary Ruth Clark, because I'd never written anything like that, and she had written plays, and and he liked it, and he ended up funding it, and we did it, and it had some local success, and Steven Soderbergh ended up seeing it, and he brought it into Universal, because he said this should be remade. It should be this could be relatable to everyone on the planet. He was right.
Well, clearly. And I don't think you knew you had a franchise on your hands with that idea.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Yeah, but so I kind of fell into that was when I started. Once I started getting money for scripts, I stopped doing stand-up.
And is that something that you ever get the itch for, or you're just in your lane now, making movies, that's it?
About 10 years ago, I went on a tour with Emo. Just about four, nice. I think it was 5 cities, just opening for him. I just kind of wanted to see if I could still do it. And it was pretty much exactly the same as I remember it. In good clubs, I did great.
Sure.
In the really not so good clubs, I had trouble.
Fair enough. How does Emo do? Because he has such a unique comedy voice that I adore him. But he's one of those guys that I can imagine in the wrong audience that it just might completely not go well.
he did great everywhere I've ever seen him.
Okay.
Even in the some of the clubs that I had trouble with, he killed. He has such great material.
Yeah.
And he's such a pro. I can't imagine him not going over anywhere. I just saw him recently. He went on a tour with Weird Al Yankovic for a couple of years, I think, and they went, Europe and
wow.
But I saw him in L.A. and he was funnier than ever. He's such a great writer, is what it is. He has the best material of anyone.
That's right. I forgot he did that little bit in UHF with Weird Al. They've been working together friends, forever. Yeah. So okay, that makes sense. Very cool. So then, with the release of the film, when something like this happens, when the Road Dog is out there now, how does that feel? Is that something that you have a sense of kind of putting it out in the world? Do you have closure with that and you're on to the next one? Or is it something that it's just waiting for the reaction to come in and kind of see where it is in the public's eye?
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. We're just trying to get people to know about it who, we don't have a big budget for advertising. I think a lot of people would like it, but they don't know about it. So far, we've just gotten Doug's fans who are aware of it, and I'd like to try and branch out to other people who maybe don't know who he is, just might like the movie.
Well, I think this is a movie that would go beyond just stand-up fans, beyond just Doug Stanhope fans. This is something that really, I think it's a funny movie, but this really just is a character piece about a father and son and about that relationship and those dynamics and about how, one generation can screw up the next and following in your father's footsteps and those things. And I think that it's absolutely a relatable film. And yeah, I think that it should find a wider audience. Have you found people getting into it beyond that? Because I would be shocked if this doesn't find a home beyond Doug's fans.
Oh, we've gotten some response from people who say they didn't know anything about it going into it. They didn't know who Doug was and they liked it. Yeah. So it's just, studios spend more money on advertising than they do on the films.
It's so weird.
I wish we could have billboards and be on buses and stuff, but so it has to be kind of word of mouth and shows like this, get people interested.
It's very strange when you start hearing that a $20 million movie, they'll spend $40 million advertising it to let people know that it exists, that it's still in this day and age, that's what it takes to get some of those things out there. It's just, I can't get my head around that. It seems like there should be, with media being what it is now, an easier and more affordable way of doing those things.
We're doing things like, I wrote a song for the closing credits.
That'll do it.
And it plays over it is officially entered into the Academy Awards. So I called the song "Remember Me" theme from the Road Dog. So if by some miracle it gets nominated, the Road Dog. Okay, we do things like that for advertising.
So how does a submission go for something like that? Is it the Academy you had to play New York, LA, and then you can submit anything?
Yeah, we did a limited theatrical, so we are eligible. Although I don't think they would put our little against Barbie, But just in case, I called it theme from the Road Dog. So that's what I'm trying to do to get publicity.
Well, I mean, I definitely recommend people checking out the film because I had a great time watching it. I think that people would definitely enjoy this. And it's pretty much anywhere you do VOD at this point, correct?
At this point, yeah, it's Amazon, Apple, iTunes.
Wherever you rent a movie, you should be able to find it. Probably more.
It's there.
Okay, awesome. Yes. Well, Greg, thank you so much for taking the time to do this again, man. I really appreciate it. And
thank you.
I hope that there's another one coming down the pike because I'm definitely a fan. I want more. I'm a greedy American consumer, so I want more of your stuff. Even while you're trying to push this one out, I'm ready for the next one.
Me too. All right, thanks.
Thank you so much, Greg. Take care.
All right,
bye.
Bye.
Time enough to figure you out. Time enough to write this down. Wish me luck, give me hope. So I fall one more time, and I'll say I can't see you. Sound down into the bathroom, fade out into the background. voice crack.